Cats enjoy belly rubs. Ow. Hey there, this is your pal Pallie, and welcome back to Overrated. This is episode number 11. And today we're going to be talking about Mythic rating and from a 25 10-man perspective. So, I know there's been a lot of different topics about Mythic rating and what it's going to do to 10-man guilds and 25-man guilds and all of that jazz. And it's been blogged about and people have talked about a lot of things. But I thought I'd give you this unique perspective I've got after this week where I joined a 25-man heroic guild named the Cat. No. So I joined a 25-man heroic guild. Previously, I've been doing 10-man heroic, and I got this really interesting inspiration about Mythic rating and how it's going to work out. So, let's get into it. My first point is, I think this is a good move for encounter design. And that's the big point. I've done many of the encounters in Siege of Orgrimmar on 10-man heroic. Before I left my previous guild, we had done spoils on heroic, and we had pulled Malkarak a couple times. We pulled Thok. We pulled Siegecrafter a couple times on heroic. So I had a decent working knowledge, 10-man wise, how everything previous to that had worked out, and how fights worked out, all that other jazz. So, I'd obviously done some flex, I've obviously done some LFRs here and there, but this past raid week, I moved on to another guild, and it's 25-man heroic. So, I got lucky, and this was their farm week, so I got to see all of the fights on 25-man heroic. So we killed Malkarak, 25-man heroic, on the first night, all the way up to there. Then killed Spoils and Thok on 25-man heroic, and we're working on Siegecrafter heroic. Which, by the way, I have a Malkarak 25-man heroic video out. I'll have a Thok one soon. Sorry about the Siege of Orgrimmar achievement guide. Really gotta get back to that. Anywho, sorry, deviation. But, anywho, I got to see all of the same fights from a 25-man perspective, and what really struck me about it was there were some fights where you just felt this encounter was made for 25-man. Like they took 25-man, changed the mechanic, or, put the mechanics down to scale down to 10, and that's what happened. So, first example, right off the bat, the first encounter, Immersius. It's a huge room. It's huge. And it's just built for having scattered little pockets of healers and DPS, and then the tanks up front. It's just built for that. I mean, even the room itself with the little channels and all the other stuff kind of screams, put yourself into a whole bunch of groups around the boss, put the tanks up front, or in the back, whatever, and do the encounter. I mean, 10-man, it's obviously doable. They obviously scale down the ads and all the other stuff for that, but on 10-man, our strategy at least is we all group up on one side, and then when he does the split thing, we run around and then come back and do all that kind of jazz. I'm sure there are 10-man guilds who at least split up the group, in two, and have one side and the other side for healing and all that kind of stuff. Although maybe it's hard to gather the ads. I don't know. The ads on 25-man heroic for the corruption thing didn't really. They all seem to be gathered, and we all blew them up like in 2 seconds. But again, this is probably over-geared 25-man heroic guild at this point for that encounter. But they just didn't seem like an issue. So right away, first encounter seemed like this is probably made for a 25-man guild. So to continue, Protectors as a generic encounter, Nourishin, generic encounter. you get the Shaw of Pride. And right there, again, the room design itself. On 10-man, only 2 of the little thingies activate the prisons, and you only have to have 2 people step in the, the one that light up yellow or whatever, and you have to turn it blue. You only have to have 2 people sit in that to break the person from the prison. In 25-man, you have to split up people in the 4 sides of the room to say, you take care of this one, you take care of that one, etc., etc. So, once again, it felt like, oh yeah, and the ads come out from the 3 different spaces, and once again, it felt like, put the tanks here, split up the groups, and there you go. It felt more natural on 25-man. It felt like, oh, this is how the encounter should have been. 10-man, obviously, was a tough encounter. You downed it, etc., etc. Only one ad comes out from the back. You deal with that singly, whatever. But just the encounter design felt that way. So, continuing through the instance. Gallicrass, for some reason, it felt like to me, I don't know if it was DPS or if it was like a encounter design thing, but we seem to be really behind on pushing the phase in order to get to Gallicrass himself or herself coming down. But whatever, who knows? Maybe the timers are a bit different on 25-man versus 10-man. I didn't pay that much attention to it, but I just felt like, wow, I'm sitting here at the bottom, and hey, they left me at the bottom, which is like the first time ever, first time I've ever been on the, team that sits down at DPS's ads. So that's pretty fun. But the encounter seemed a little behind. But anyway, we did our little strategy with a split up and, down it all happy skippy. Iron Juggernaut, completely generic, same strategy, same everything. Dark Shaman, same deal. But one of the things about Dark Shaman on Heroic is that for most guilds do a 3-tank strategy. They send 2 tanks up with Harem, and they send them all the way up the path to let the walls and all the mechanics and that stuff happen up there, while the rest of the group, ranged heals, they kind of sit down in the main area with the bank and all that other jazz, and do their kiting around for the ads and such. But a lot of 10-man guilds get to that encounter, and if they don't have that 3rd tank ready to go, or at least somewhat geared, some plate DPS or a monk that you've been feeding some gear, or a druid you've been feeding some gear, if you don't have that 3rd one ready, it's kind of a struggle to do the regular 2-tank thing. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to get used to, prisons and tombs, and 25-mans have a higher likelihood of having someone who's willing to step up and tank for a little bit for one fight, and off you go. So sending out a 3rd tank all the way up there, no problem. And splitting up the heals, whatever. So again, felt like encounter design was more 25-man versus 10 and all that jazz. So, and again, through all of this, I'm not saying that one was easier or harder or any of that kind of stuff. Again, I got the chance to progress on 10-man, and so we were struggling through each boss up to there. And on 25-man, I got a chance to be in on a farm night where everyone was mostly over-geared for these encounters, and, we had a couple people bring in just to get some gear, blah, 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 that kind of stuff, so everyone knew what they were doing. And, that's not a good place for me to be able to say, oh, yeah, we roll through this encounter, that must mean it's easier on 25-man, whatever. What I'm more talking about is strategy-wise, encounter design-wise, it felt like, for these things that I'm pointing out, that it was more tailored to, this is a 25-man encounter. So, let me just roll through the rest of the fights, and then I'll get to my point about Mythic. Nazgrim, didn't feel any different, whatever. Malkorak was interesting. We had pulled it on Heroic 10-man for a little while, got past, one Blood Rage phase, and just had things fall apart. But again, Malkorak is a spread out, cover a lot of area type deal, and that's really hard to do for a 10-man, especially if you're a 10-man that is, you only have like 3 ranged or something, and you're 2 healing stuff. That's 5 people that have to cover the whole room, and 2 of those void zones might spawn near him. Oh crap, someone's got to cover that quickly. So, again, from the coverage of the room perspective, 10-man feels like kind of iffy. Now, 25-man, on the other side of the coin, it felt like, oh my god, there's freaking bubbles everywhere. But on 25-man, you might have a lot more people who can help you out with that. So, give and take there. I get that point. In 25-man, you have to cover 7 zones. 10-man, you have to cover 3 zones with 10 people. I don't know. Maybe that's close. That's probably close in terms of difficulty and all that other jazz. But encounter design-wise, when you're covering a lot of space, it feels like more people is more. So, pushing on. Spoils. Still love that fight. Feels no different on 25-man versus 10-man. I don't know. What can I say? I love the fight. But just getting used to a few more people than the 5 I'm used to running around with. I actually exploded. I got the set to blow thing from the Manted, and I actually exploded my bombs with deterrence on a couple of my new raid members. Alright, guys. But, again, no difference between 10 or 25. It didn't feel any like this is designed for 25 or 10. Whatever. So, pushing on to Thok. Didn't really feel any different between the two. Certainly, he set it up the same way. I'll get to the strategy guide, in a couple days here. Get that up. But you can set it up pretty much the same way, and it feels the same way on 10 versus 25. Obviously, you got to have good healers. You got to have good DPS and to push the phases and everything. But it didn't feel like, oh, we've got to cover a lot of space or anything like that. Now, in 25-man, anyone can be picked for that fixate, and thus you need to have a lot more people in your raid that are aware. You need to have 25 people who are raid enough aware to know what the kite pattern is, where to go, have good raid leaders to call out. Okay, you're taking it to the back next, or all that jazz. So that's a little bit harder to get 25 people who all know exactly what they're doing, but that's just practice. That's, not a big thing in terms of how you're setting it up. That can be true of many encounters. So, and then finally, my experience with Siegecrafter so far is I've been on the belt, which is fun. I like doing it because it's kind of like a unique little trick type dealio. But I've been on the belt. I don't have a perspective on how 25-man heroic or 10-man heroic feels on the platform or design-wise. It feels like my initial impressions from 10 and 25 are like, there's a lot of crap happening. And that guide is probably going to be like 20 minutes long. So get ready for that, I hope. Go team. Let's get that done. Anywho, so I've gone through all these encounters. I just wanted to talk about most of them just to say, here's some things I've noticed between 25 and 10. And for those standout things that I mentioned, for example, Mercedes' room, Shaw of Pride's room, all those kind of things point to Blizzard designed this encounter up and said, hey, wouldn't this be cool if, you had to stand on these things on here in order to free your guy who was taking a lot of damage to prisons on Shaw of Pride. Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. And we need to have 4 corners of the room covered of them. Oh, man, how is that going to work on 10-man? We can't have 8 people have to stand to free. Wait, that doesn't add up number-wise. Well, we'll just disable 2 of them on 10-man. It just feels like they had to take a step back or take a step down in difficulty, or maybe not in difficulty, but just in mechanics, just to make it fit for both sides. And again, I progressed on 10-man, so that's my perspective on how hard the fight is. I can't tell you how hard it was to progress it on a 25-man heroic. And anyone who takes this to be, oh, well, he's saying 10-man or 25-man is, harder. There is no one in the world who knows which was harder to progress on, because once you start on one, you already have some experience with the mechanics, and you can never say that. So, again, not a 10 and 25-man thing, but the mechanics were made for 25-man, and then pared down, in a sense, on difficulty, but changed to fit a 10-man mode. So, all coming down to the Mythic thing. So, what I like about Mythic is we're talking... One of the main points that I think people are missing about Mythic is that Blizzard can design an encounter for 20-man exactly. So, there will be LFR, there will be normal mode, there will be heroic mode. And all of those will have to do these kind of paring down of mechanics or scaling or whatever, which has worked out pretty decently for Flex in Siege of Orgrimmar. I mean, they've got some things to do and things to look for, and I'm sure there will be some broken things like, oh man, if you add a 17th person on heroic blah, you're just screwed. Forget about it. Sit that guy. Don't take him. There will maybe be some of those examples, but for Mythic, they can design an encounter exactly for 20 people. They can go, okay, 20 people. We got exactly 20 people. That means 2 tanks, maybe, I don't know, the healer ratio might be like 3 or 4 healers. Probably 3 to 5 healers is what encounters are going to be for. If it's a real DPS check and you've got really strong healers, maybe you could 3 heal stuff. On average, you're probably 4. If something's really tough, you might 5 heal. We'll see. We'll see how it comes out. But you've got 2 tanks, 4 healers, that's 6. You got 14 other people who can deal with some other mechanic. So maybe you split that up and go, well, let's see. Let's have some mechanic where 4 people have to stand here, here, and here. So that's 12 people. That's the mechanic. And they design the room around that, design the whole encounter around the fact that you've got 12 people who are going to have to deal with this thing. I mean, we've seen them do the exact same thing, like just yesterday, maybe it was the day before. They announced some changes to Garrosh Heroic for 10-man because they realized that some of the scaling was off for stacking for Phase 4 with the Malice and the this and the that, and the Iron Star spawning. And they realized, we didn't quite get this right. On Mythic, they're going to be able to get it right. And they're going to be able to say, okay, this is the encounter. There's no weirdness between 10 or 25, whatever. This is the encounter. So, having gone through this past week in 25-man Heroic, I actually get a little bit more hopeful of encounters that are going to be really tuned exactly to this, and there's going to be no arguments over which is harder, 10 or 25, which isn't what this video is about, but as a sidelight, yay, no more of those arguments. But we will at least have encounters that are specifically tuned to the 20 people. As well, there's a difference between 10 and 25 that they've identified as, hey, if you've got a 10-man group, there's no guarantee that you have, say, a mage or a warlock. Actually, you probably will have a warlock because they're OP. No, I'm just kidding. Anywho, there's no guarantee that you might have a particular class. With 25-man, they could design encounters because it's very likely you're going to have a druid. It's very likely you're going to have a paladin. So, you're going to have Blessing of Protection for clearing off this debuff or something. They can design an encounter around that. On 10-man, you couldn't do that. 20-man, you're going to be able to say, look, guilds, you probably should have, on average, 2 of every class so that you can cover this, this, and this, and this. And that's what we're designing the encounter for, so have that. Maybe not exactly. Again, if you have 3 mages and just 1 rep paladin, maybe that works out okay for the mythic stuff. But on average, guilds are going to want to shoot somewhere. I mean, there's more classes than 10 at this point, but you probably will have at least 1 of every class, at least, and most likely close to 2. So that allows Blizzard, as they said already, to design an encounter around a piece. So cool stuff. Liking that. The other piece that I want to slightly mention, I know I'm near the end of my time here. Maybe people have checked out already. Sorry. But if you have, stay tuned, because Mythic Trash. Come on. Get excited about Mythic Trash. It's one of those pet peeve, maybe not it's a pet peeve, but it's one of those things where I said it, here's a great example. Right at the beginning, before you get to spoils, you go down, you've killed Nazgrim, you've killed Malkarak, you go down, and you come out to where there's 4 guys come running at you. This is Horde side. Sorry, I know Alliance has different trash elsewhere. But anyway, 4 guys come running out, and there's like 2 and 2, and there's 2 cannons to the side. And after those guys come out, the little engineer guys come out and open boxes and such. I know most people know this, but most people ignore it at this point, maybe because of gear. But those 4 guys that initially come out, if they're close to each other, they do a crap ton more damage to the tanks. It can be healed through, I know, and we can AoE everything down like we always do. But I wish trash, some of the trash at least, was kind of like how, let's go back even further. Let's go back to, would it be tier 11? Yeah, tier 11. Fresh and Cataclysm. You step into Blackwing Descent, you go up the stairs to the left to, Big Worm guy. What's his name? I know my friend was farming the crap out of him. Anywho, you know which guy I'm talking about. And the trash right there was 1 guy who sort of beat on you a little bit, well, whatever. But then the next 2 guys you pulled, if you didn't split them up and have them run across when they did the switch thing, you were screwed. Your tank was dead in like a second, and then it would turn and kill anyone else, and you were done. I know it was annoying, and I know people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to be sitting and wiping trash, I want to kill bosses and stuff. But it's almost like that purist thing. I kind of want the whole instance to be hard, and us to have to pay attention through most of it. I know trash, this is maybe, leading into another episode at some point, but I know trash has its purpose to let people sort of wind down or feel like you're killing boss guy's minions, and then you get to boss guy. And I like how Blizzard does a lot of cool things where they give you the boss mechanics in the trash in some minor way. But I like that. I like having to execute trash correctly instead of just AoE fest down. I mean, I know the trash in ICC, the start of it, man, there was a lot of it. But some of it you really had to pull in the right order. And at least to me, as a beginning raider, we weren't the best or whatever. It took us a long time to even kill Lich King. But it felt like a progression of, okay, we gotta do this. Let me pull this. Oh crap, we pulled both big guys. We're all dead. Run out. Reset. But it felt like we had to do it in a decent manner, or else we would fail at it. So, I know it's going to sound funny, but I am excited for Mythic Trash, if nothing else for the sense of we have to do the trash correctly and people need to pay attention. That's it. I don't know. I'm probably weird. I'm probably going to get flamed for this one. But whatever. I throw my opinions out there. You guys comment. We have some fun. We down some bosses. Off we go. Anywho. Today's Overrated is now over. We talked about some Mythic stuff. We talked about 25-man, 10-man encounters in Siege. And we talked about Mythic Trash. Come on. You like it. You want it. Got some Skittles in the background. Whatever, it's what I just ate in order to get me up for this. But anywho, thanks for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, all that other fun jazz. This is your pal Pallie. Have a good one, guys.